The rain drummed softly against the glass walls of Stratagem Tech's towering headquarters in downtown Manhattan, the kind of rain that seemed to blur the city into a watercolor of ambition and exhaustion. Inside, the building pulsed with tension. Every floor carried whispers of uncertainty, of a company teetering on the brink of collapse. For weeks, the once mighty Stratagem Tech, once the darling of Silicon Valley investors, had been bleeding money. Its flagship AI project, Athena, had malfunctioned spectacularly, causing data corruption across several clients' systems. Lawsuits were piling up. Investors were pulling out. Employees were quietly updating their LinkedIn profiles. And at the top of it all sat Richard Voss, the infamously arrogant CEO. He was brilliant once, some even said visionary, but years of unchecked ego had twisted that brilliance into cruelty. He mocked employees in meetings, took credit for others' ideas, and dismissed anyone beneath executive rank as replaceable. Now, on a gray Monday morning, the company's survival hinged on a single problem. The Athena AI core had frozen mid-calculation, locking out engineers and corrupting millions of lines of code. Even Stratagem's top programmers, including those flown in from overseas, couldn't fix it. It was the kind of failure that could end a career or save one. In the sleek, glass-walled boardroom on the 43rd floor, Voss slammed his palm against the table, his voice echoing through the tense silence. "Do you mean to tell me," he barked, eyes flashing with fury, "that not one of you with your six-figure salaries and your Ivy League degrees, can fix a glitch in our own system?" The room was still. A dozen engineers stared at their screens, avoiding his gaze. "Sir," one of them stammered, "it's not a normal glitch. The AI's neural matrix—" "I don't care about your excuses," Voss roared. "I want results, not riddles." He paced, fuming, his perfectly tailored suit catching the light. "This company is losing $10 million a day. If Athena doesn't reboot by Friday, we're finished. And so are you." He jabbed a finger toward them. "All of you." The engineers exchanged uneasy glances. Everyone knew what that meant. Voss was infamous for firing entire departments when things went wrong. At the far corner of the room, Ethan, a junior developer barely out of college, spoke up timidly. "Sir, maybe if we just roll back to version 3.0, Voss cut him off with a cold laugh. "Oh, brilliant idea, rookie. Let's just roll back and lose 2 years of development. Maybe I should roll you out instead." Laughter rippled among the senior execs, forced, sycophantic laughter. Ethan sank in his chair, humiliated. "Unbelievable," Voss muttered. "I could hand this problem to a janitor and get better results." A hush fell. The irony of his words would soon come back to haunt him. Down in the sub-basement of the same building, Samir Patel, the night janitor, was finishing his shift. He had worked for Stratagem Tech for 12 years, mopping floors, emptying trash, fixing flickering lights no one else bothered to notice. He was quiet, dependable, invisible, the kind of man people passed every day without truly seeing. But today, he wasn't alone. His 20-year-old daughter, Ava, had come along to help him. Ava was no ordinary girl. She had grown up surrounded by the hum of machinery and the whisper of cleaning sprays, her childhood spent exploring the building her father cleaned. But behind her quiet demeanor was a mind that burned with curiosity. She had been teaching herself programming since she was 14, using free online courses, YouTube tutorials, and open-source communities. She didn't have a degree or fancy credentials, but she had something better: obsession. As her father mopped the marble floors, she sat on an upturned bucket, tapping away at her old laptop. "Still working on your code thing?" Samir asked, smiling tiredly. Ava nodded. "Yeah, I'm trying to build a diagnostic AI, something that can find bugs in code automatically. But it keeps getting stuck in recursive loops," her father chuckled. "That sounds complicated." "It is," she admitted, "but I think I'm close." He looked at her lovingly. "You always say that, Beta," Ava grinned. "This time I mean it." Upstairs, chaos reigned. Down here, the only sounds were the rhythmic swish of the mop and the hum of the air vents. Suddenly, a red light began flashing near the server room door. Samir frowned. That's new. He walked over, squinting at the glowing warning panel. System lockdown. Authorized access only. Probably another glitch, he muttered. They've been having problems all week. Ava's curiosity lit up instantly. Can I see it? See what? The server room. Just a peek. Her father hesitated. Ava, no. That's company property. Come on, Dad, I won't touch anything. I just want to look, he sighed, glancing down the empty corridor. Everyone had gone home hours ago. What harm could it do? 5 minutes. He relented. They slipped inside. The server room was a cathedral of technology. Rows of black towers blinking with blue lights, cables running like veins across the floor. Ava's eyes widened. This is incredible, she whispered. Her father chuckled. It's just computers. No, she murmured, stepping closer. It's like a brain. On one of the monitors, red text flashed rapidly. Core system error. Athena neural matrix. Collapsiava frowned. Athena? Her father shrugged. That's the project everyone upstairs is panicking about. Something broke. Ava's fingers itched. Can I try something? Try. You said you wouldn't touch anything. I know, but look, there's a remote terminal open. No one's even logged out. Ava, please, Dad, just 5 minutes. I want to see what's wrong. He sighed again. She had the same stubborn spark her late mother once had. Fine, 5 minutes. But if we get fired, you owe me dinner. Ava grinned, cracking her knuckles. Deal. She leaned over the keyboard, eyes scanning the code. Lines of data scrolled past like a digital storm. Most people would see gibberish, endless streams of variables and symbols, but Ava saw patterns, rhythms. She could feel the logic behind it, the way a musician feels a melody. Within minutes, she noticed something odd. The system wasn't broken, it was trapped. A single recursive function was looping endlessly, feeding back into itself, locking every other process. Whoever wrote this didn't include a failsafe, she muttered. Amateurs, Samir blinked. English, please. It's like, imagine a hallway with mirrors on both sides, she explained. You throw a ball and it bounces back and forth forever. The system's doing that. It's stuck reflecting its own process. And that's bad? Very bad, she typed quickly, isolating the faulty module. Then she did something the engineers hadn't thought to do. She wrote a mirror disruptor. A short piece of code that created a synthetic exit point for the loop, allowing it to release itself. The screen flickered. The red warnings vanished. The servers began to hum more smoothly. System stable, the console displayed. Ava gasped softly. I think I fixed it. Her father froze. Wait, what? Before she could respond, the security door swung open. 2 guards stormed in, followed by a furious Richard Voss. What the hell is going on here? He thundered. Samir dropped his mop. Sir! We were just... Voss's eyes narrowed as he spotted the girl at the terminal. Who the hell is this? I'm, his daughter, Ava stammered. You were just what? Hacking into my company's mainframe? Samir tried to explain, panic rising. Sir, she didn't mean any harm. She was just curious. Curious? Voss barked. Do you have any idea what kind of damage unauthorized access can cause? I should have you both escorted out right now. He motioned to the guards, but one of them hesitated. Sir, the guard said, pointing at the monitor, the system's back online. Voss turned sharply. What? Sure enough, the red warnings were gone. The servers were running at full efficiency. The room filled with stunned silence. How? How is this possible? One of the engineers whispered, having just entered. We've been working on that error for 2 weeks. Ava swallowed hard. It was a recursive loop. I just redirected the exit parameter. The engineers blinked, struggling to process her words. Voss stared at her, disbelief etched on his face. You expect me to believe you fixed what 100 of my top developers couldn't? Ava hesitated. You can check the logs. The code's right there, he snorted. Oh, I will. And if I find out you tampered with anything else, you'll regret it. He stormed out, barking orders into his headset. Samir turned to his daughter, pale. Ava, what did you just do? She smiled weakly. I think I just saved the company. By morning, the entire building was buzzing. Rumors spread like wildfire. Someone had fixed Athena overnight. By noon, the story had reached the top investors. By evening, Voss had verified it himself. The impossible had happened. The AI was stable, functional, and faster than before. At the next board meeting, he stood at the head of the table, expression unreadable. "Whoever fixed Athena," he said slowly, "saved this company from bankruptcy." His CFO looked nervous. "Sir, the system logs show it was an unauthorized terminal access from the basement janitorial network." The room went silent. Voss's jaw tightened. The janitor's daughter. The words tasted bitter. "Bring them up," he ordered. When Samir and Ava entered the executive floor later that day, they looked out of place amid the marble floors and suits. Ava wore a faded hoodie, her hair tied up messily, laptop tucked under her arm. Samir looked terrified. Voss didn't look at them at first. He stood by the window, gazing out at the skyline. Finally, he turned, his smile thin and sharp. "So," he said, "you're the genius who fixed my billion-dollar problem." Ava shifted nervously. "I just saw the issue and wrote a patch." "It!" The morning sun rose like molten gold over the Manhattan skyline, streaking the Stratagem Tech Tower in light. Inside, the building was stirring to life. Executives in expensive suits, engineers nursing coffees, interns whispering about the latest rumor that had spread like wildfire overnight. The janitor's daughter had done it again. At first, most employees didn't believe it. A rumor that someone with no degree, no position, and no official clearance had increased Athena's performance by 37% sounded absurd. But when they logged into the mainframe that morning and saw the numbers, the speed, the stability, the elegance of the new subroutines, disbelief turned into stunned silence. The code was clean, efficient, beautiful even. Some engineers sat back in their chairs, whispering in awe. "Who wrote this?" one murmured. "Whoever she is," another said quietly. "She's not human." Upstairs, in the CEO's penthouse office, Richard Voss was staring at the same data, jaw tight, disbelief carving lines into his normally smug expression. He had personally ordered 3 of his top developers to comb through the code. Their reports were unanimous. The janitor's daughter had not only fixed Athena, she had improved it beyond anything Stratagem's best minds could have conceived. "How?" Voss muttered, pacing in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows. "How is this possible?" His assistant, a nervous young man named Reed, hesitated by the door. "Sir, she said she'd done it overnight." "Overnight?" Voss turned sharply. "Don't be ridiculous. We've had teams working for months." "I know, sir, but the optimization logs don't lie." Voss rubbed his temple. He wasn't angry, not exactly. He was intrigued, unsettled, and beneath that, something darker was growing. Jealousy. For years, Richard Voss had built his empire on being the smartest man in the room. He thrived on power, on superiority. But now, that power was being quietly rewritten by someone who shouldn't even be in the room. A janitor's daughter. "Bring her up," he said finally. "Now." Down in the sub-basement, Ava was still sitting cross-legged on the floor, her laptop open, surrounded by empty coffee cups. Her father had fallen asleep on a chair nearby, snoring softly. When the elevator doors slid open, 2 men in black suits stepped out. "Ava Patel?" one of them asked. She blinked, startled. "Yes?" "Mr. Voss wants to see you." Samir stirred awake instantly, eyes wide. "Oh no! Oh no, no, no! What did you do now?" "Dad, it's fine," she said, standing. I think he just wants to talk." But she didn't sound convinced. The elevator ride to the top floor felt endless. As the numbers climbed, Ava's pulse quickened. When the doors opened, she stepped into another world. Marble floors, gold accents, city views stretching for miles. Everything smelled like wealth. Voss stood by his desk, hands clasped behind his back. He didn't look up immediately. When he did, His eyes were cold and calculating. "So," he said, "you did it." Ava nodded slowly. "Yes, sir. I'll admit, I didn't expect you to. My engineers confirmed your results." "Thank you," he smirked. "You exceeded the goal by quite a bit. 37% improvement. That's impressive." She didn't respond. Voss circled her slowly, like a predator examining a new species. "Tell me, Ava, do you have any idea what you've just done?" "I improved Athena's processing structure." He laughed softly. "You did more than that. You've made stratagem tech relevant again. Do you understand? This code, your code, could be worth billions. Governments, corporations, defense sectors, they'll all want it." Ava frowned. "Then you'll finally keep your word?" Voss stopped. "My word? You said you'd give me $200 million if I fixed it." The room went quiet. For a second, he simply stared at her, then burst out laughing. "Oh, come now. You didn't actually believe that, did you?" Ava's stomach twisted. "You said it yourself. Fix this and I'll give you $200 million. He waved a hand dismissively. "It was a joke, sweetheart. A mockery. You really thought I'd hand $200 million to a janitor's daughter?" Her jaw clenched. "I thought you were a man of your word." "Oh, I am," he said coolly. "When dealing with professionals, not with whatever this is." He gestured vaguely at her hoodie, her scuffed sneakers, her tired eyes. "You broke company protocol. You shouldn't even have been near the mainframe. You're lucky I'm not having you arrested." Her voice dropped. "You'd arrest the person who saved your company?" His smile was icy. "Welcome to the real world, Miss Patel. Ideas don't belong to people like you. They belong to companies like mine." She stared at him, the words sinking in like knives. "So that's it? You're just going to take my work and compensate you fairly," he interrupted smoothly. "A small reward for your contribution. Say $20,000? Enough to make you and your father comfortable." Ava's hands curled into fists. $20,000 for rewriting the foundation of your entire AI? He smiled. "That's $20,000 more than you had yesterday." For a moment, she couldn't speak. Rage and disbelief tangled inside her like a storm. She looked at her father, standing behind her, silent, helpless. Voss extended a sleek envelope. "There's also an NDA inside. You'll sign it before you leave. It's standard procedure." Ava stared at the envelope, then at him. "You're stealing from me?" He chuckled. "No, Ava. I'm protecting my company. And trust me, if you ever want to work in this industry, you'll need to learn that brains don't mean power. Ownership does." Something inside her snapped. She turned, snatched the envelope, and tore it in half. "Keep your money," she said through gritted teeth. "I'll make sure the world knows exactly who built Athena." For the first time, Voss's smirk faltered. "You wouldn't dare." Ava met his gaze. "Watch me." Then she turned on her heel and walked out, her father following in stunned silence. They didn't make it far. By the time they reached the lobby, 3 security guards were waiting. "Miss Patel," one said firmly, "Mr. Voss has instructed us to escort you off the premises. Permanently." Samir's face went pale. "You're firing us?" "I'm afraid so." They were handed their termination letters on the spot. As they stepped out into the cold morning, the rain had started again. Harder this time, pounding against the concrete like fury itself. Ava didn't cry. Not yet. But as they walked down the street, drenched and jobless, her father finally spoke. "Ava, maybe it's better this way. We don't need them." She stopped. "Don't we? He's taking everything I built. He'll patent it, brand it, sell it, and no one will ever know I existed." Samir put a hand on her shoulder. "Then make something even better. Something they can't take." She looked up at him, and for the first time since leaving the building, she smiled faintly. "Maybe I will." 3 months passed. Stratagem Tech exploded back into the spotlight. Headlines declared it's miraculous. Come back. Stratagem Tech unveils next-gen AI. The future is here. Richard Voss's Athena 2.0 redefines artificial intelligence. The company's stock soared. Investors poured in billions, and at every press conference, Voss stood in front of flashing cameras, basking in the praise. Athena represents years of hard work, he said smoothly. The result of a world-class team of engineers. Ava's name was never mentioned. Meanwhile, in a small rented apartment in Queens, Ava was quietly building something else. Her father had found work at another office building. Money was tight, but Ava didn't care. Every night she sat by her laptop, surrounded by wires, notebooks, and cold coffee, writing code faster than she could think. Her new project was called Erebus, an AI unlike anything before it. Where Athena was built for corporations, Erebus was built for people. It wasn't just intelligent, it was empathetic, intuitive, capable of understanding emotion and adapting to human needs. Ava wasn't trying to destroy Stratagem. She was trying to change the world. But the world noticed. When she uploaded the beta version of Erebus to an open-source platform, it spread like wildfire across the internet. Within weeks, independent developers, students, and researchers were using it for everything from healthcare analytics to language translation. Erebus wasn't just a program, it was a movement. And when journalists began tracing its origins, the truth emerged. Anonymous developer behind Erebus identified as ex-Stratagem employee, the janitor's daughter who saved Athena. The story went viral overnight. News anchors, tech blogs, and investors all wanted to know the same thing. Who was Ava Patel? Voss was furious. He threw the morning paper across his office. "Find her!" he barked at his legal team. "Find her and shut her down! She's using our code!" "She's not, sir," one of them replied nervously. "We've compared her architecture. It's completely original." "Impossible. She built it from scratch." Voss clenched his jaw. "Then sue her anyway." "But on what grounds?" "On principle." The lawsuit hit within days. Stratagem Tech accused Ava of violating intellectual property laws, claiming she'd stolen internal data to build Erebus. At first, she was terrified. The company had an army of lawyers. She had a laptop. But she refused to back down. Her supporters rallied online. Programmers, journalists, ordinary people who saw her as a symbol of integrity against corporate greed. Donations poured in. Pro bono lawyers volunteered. The court case drew global attention. On the day of the hearing, the courtroom was packed. Voss sat at one table, smug and confident in his tailored suit. Ava sat at the other, wearing the same hoodie she'd worn the day she'd been fired. The judge, a stern woman with sharp eyes, turned to Stratagem's legal counsel. "Your claim," she said, "is that Miss Patel used proprietary code belonging to Stratagem Tech. Can you prove this?" The lawyer stood. "We can, Your Honor. Athena's core optimization algorithm shares similarities with Erebus's adaptive model." The judge nodded. "And Miss Patel, how do you respond?" Ava stood, heart pounding. "Your Honor, I didn't copy Athena. I built Erebus from the ground up. In fact, I can prove Athena's optimization came from me. Check the metadata from the original Athena subroutine. The timestamp matches the night I accessed the server, from a janitorial terminal. That code wasn't written by Stratagem. It was written by me." The courtroom buzzed with whispers. The judge looked intrigued. "Do you have evidence?" Ava nodded. "I saved a copy of the log that night. It shows my user ID and my patch note." She handed over a flash drive. The court technician projected it onto the screen. There it was, a log entry dated 3 months before Athena's relaunch. User, Jan, Basement, 3. Executed module, Mirror, Disruptor. Performance increase detected, 37.2%. Log note, Fixed Infinite Recursion Loop, Ava P. Voss's face turned pale. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Voss, it appears your company's code bears Miss Patel's name." The courtroom erupted. Cameras flashed. Reporters scribbled furiously. Ava stood silently. Her father watching from the back row, tears in his eyes. When the verdict came, It was decisive. The court finds that Miss Patel's intellectual property rights were violated. Stratagem Tech is ordered to issue a public apology, cease all claims of ownership over the Athena optimization code, and pay damages in the amount of $200 million. The gasp that rippled through the courtroom was electric. Ava froze. Her father whispered, "200 million? He has to pay you what he promised." Voss sat motionless. Fury etched into his face. The same words he'd once mocked her with now echoed back as poetic justice. "Fix this, and I'll give you 200 million. She had fixed it, and now the world had fixed him. That night, standing on the rooftop of their small apartment, Ava looked out at the glowing city. Her father joined her, 2 cups of chai in hand. "You did it," he said softly. Ava smiled faintly. "We did it. What will you do now?" She thought for a moment. "Keep building. Erebus isn't finished. I want to make AI that helps people, not just companies." Her father nodded. "Your mother would have been proud." Ava's eyes glistened. "I hope so." They stood in silence for a while, watching the city pulse with light. Somewhere downtown, in a glass tower now stripped of pride, Richard Voss sat alone in his office, staring at a single line of code glowing on his screen. Fixed by Ava P., and for the first time in his life, the man who thought he owned the world realized he had been outsmarted, not by an empire, but by a janitor's daughter with nothing but a laptop, a dream, and the courage to stand up to him. Ava Patel, once a nameless girl mopping the basement floors of Stratagem Tech, was now the most talked-about developer on the planet. Her courtroom victory had become a symbol of justice, a viral headline that resonated far beyond the tech industry. From janitor's daughter to tech. Visionary, the woman who outcoded the billionaire. Ava Patel, the girl who taught. Silicon Valley, a lesson in integrity. Every outlet wanted her story. Late-night hosts joked about Richard Voss's downfall. Universities offered Ava honorary degrees. Venture capitalists sent her blank checks, begging her to start a company under their funding, but Ava stayed quiet. For a while, she disappeared from public view, not to hide, but to build. She rented a small warehouse in Brooklyn, converted it into a minimalist workspace with second-hand equipment, and brought together a team of idealists, coders, engineers, designers, psychologists, people who believed technology could serve humanity rather than enslave it. They called the company Solari, named after the Latin word for "of the sun." Its mission was simple: to create AI that empowered ordinary people, not corporations. Erebus evolved under Solari's banner. It became more than software. It became a living network, capable of learning from human emotion, conversation, and creativity. It could assist teachers in classrooms, translate for refugees in real time, even detect signs of depression in online chats and recommend help. Erebus became the light in the world's darker digital places. Within a year, Solari had over 50 million users. Governments wanted to license it. Hospitals wanted to integrate it. Schools called it revolutionary. And through it all, Ava refused to sell out. Whenever a billionaire investor offered to partner, she smiled politely and said no. She had seen what greed did to innovation. She would never let Solari become another stratagem. Meanwhile, in the skyscraper that once symbolized his power, Richard Voss sat in a different kind of silence. Stratagem Tech was crumbling. The lawsuit had gutted investor confidence. Shareholders had fled. The board forced Voss to resign as CEO within 6 months, citing reputation damage and ethical misconduct. His name became synonymous with arrogance and downfall. The man who mocked the janitor's daughter and lost everything. Voss avoided the news now. He avoided mirrors, too. He still had money, of course, plenty of it, but none of it could buy back respect. He had gone from one of the most admired tech leaders in the world to a cautionary tale whispered in lecture halls. Some nights, he would stare at Athena's old code base, the one still sitting on his private server, and reread that line, fixed by Ava P. It haunted him, because deep down, beneath the bitterness and bruised pride, he knew the truth. She was the genius he had spent his life pretending to be. And the cruelest part? He couldn't stop thinking about how effortlessly she had seen what he couldn't. 2 years later, Ava stood on the stage of a global tech summit in Singapore, wearing a simple black dress and a small gold pendant around her neck, her mother's. Behind her, the giant screen glowed with the logo of Solari Labs. Thousands of people filled the hall, engineers, innovators, journalists. Cameras clicked as Ava began to speak. "When I started Solari," she said, her voice calm but strong, "I wasn't trying to build a company. I was trying to build a conscience for technology." The audience was silent, hanging on every word. "I wanted to prove that intelligence isn't measured by profit margins or university degrees. It's measured by empathy, by curiosity, by the courage to ask, why not?" She paused, scanning the faces before her. 2 years ago, I was cleaning floors in a company that told me my place was beneath them. They were wrong. Your value isn't determined by who signs your paycheck. It's determined by what you can create and the good it brings into the world. The crowd erupted in applause. Ava smiled. When she stepped off the stage later, her father was waiting backstage, clapping quietly. "You sounded just like your mother," he said, tears in his eyes. She hugged him. "You always say that," he chuckled. "Because it's always true." As they left the stage area, a woman in a gray suit approached. "Miss Patel, someone's requested a private meeting with you." "Who?" The woman hesitated. "Richard Voss." Ava froze. "He's here?" "Yes, he's in the lounge downstairs." Her father frowned. "Ava, you don't owe that man a single word." "I know," she said softly. "But maybe I need to hear what he wants to say." The lounge was quiet, overlooking the city skyline. Voss was sitting alone by the window, his once perfect posture now slightly slouched, gray streaks running through his hair. When Ava entered, he stood. For a moment, neither spoke. "You look well," he said finally. His voice was subdued, stripped of arrogance. "So do you," she replied, though it wasn't true. He gave a small, self-deprecating smile. "I doubt that." Silence stretched between them. The air was thick with unspoken history. The night she fixed Athena, the humiliation, the courtroom. "I didn't come here to argue," Voss said finally, "or to justify what I did." "Then why are you here?" He took a deep breath. "To apologize," Ava blinked. "She hadn't expected that," he continued, voice low. "When I made that offer, the 200 million, it was a mockery, a cruel joke. But you took it seriously. You took it and proved me wrong in front of the entire world. I deserved that humiliation." He looked down at his hands. "But I want you to know something. You didn't just outsmart me. You made me rethink everything I believed about intelligence, leadership, even worth. I built a company on arrogance. You built one on humanity. And the truth is, you won." Ava's throat tightened. She wanted to hate him. Part of her still did. But there was something undeniably human in the way he spoke now, raw, humbled. "Why tell me this now?" she asked quietly. He exhaled slowly. "Because I'm dying." She froze. "What?" "Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. 6 months, maybe less." The words hung heavy in the air. He gave a faint, bitter smile. "Poetic, isn't it? I spent my life chasing immortality through technology, and now I'm running out of time." Ava sat down slowly. "I'm sorry," he nodded. "Don't be. I've made my peace with it. But before I go, I wanted to give you something." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small flash drive. "This," he said, placing it on the table, "is the original Athena prototype, the one before everything went wrong. I thought it was lost. I spent years trying to perfect it, and failed. But maybe you can use it. Combine it with Erebus. Make it what it was always meant to be." Ava stared at the drive. "Why give this to me?" "Because it's yours, really." "Always was." For the first time since she'd met him, there was no smugness in his eyes, only exhaustion and something like peace. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said quietly. "But I hope you'll remember that even monsters can learn. Eventually." She didn't speak for a long time. Finally, she reached out and took the drive. "Thank you." He smiled faintly. "No, Ava, Thank you. Voss passed away 5 months later. At his funeral, only a handful of people attended: former employees, estranged relatives, a few journalists. But among them stood Ava and her father, quietly paying their respects. Samir looked at her. "You didn't have to come. I know," she said. "But I wanted to." On the coffin lay a small note, handwritten in shaky script. "For Ava, the mind I could never match. Richard." Months turned into years. Under Ava's leadership, Solari became a global beacon for ethical technology. Its AI systems helped rebuild schools in war-torn regions, improved accessibility for the disabled, and powered climate monitoring programs across the planet. Erebus evolved into Solari One, a decentralized intelligence guided by collective human emotion, the first AI built not from corporate ambition, but from empathy and shared knowledge. Every time someone asked Ava about her success, she said the same thing: "I didn't build this alone. I built it because someone once told me I couldn't." In interviews, she never spoke of Voss by name, only as the man who challenged me to prove him wrong. Her father retired happily, spending his days gardening and watching old Bollywood films. And though Ava could have lived in luxury, she chose a quiet apartment not far from where they used to live. Her mother's picture still on the wall, her laptop always open by the window. Sometimes, when she couldn't sleep, she'd open the old Athena prototype Voss had given her. It was clunky, outdated, but she kept a single line of code intact. It reminded her of where she came from: the basement floors, the mop buckets, the nights she believed she'd never be seen. Now, the world saw her, and not because she demanded it, but because she earned it. 5 years after Solari's launch, the company hosted its first global AI ethics conference, an event streamed live in over 80 countries. Ava stood once more before an audience of innovators, students and dreamers. "5 years ago," she began, "I was given an impossible task: fix something broken for a reward that wasn't meant to be real." The audience chuckled softly, knowing the story by heart. "But the real reward," she continued, "wasn't the money. It was realizing that no one can put a price on imagination. That brilliance can be found anywhere: in janitors, in waitresses, in anyone who dares to look at the world and say, 'I can fix this.'" Applause thundered through the hall. Ava looked out at the sea of faces, and her gaze caught a young girl in the front row, maybe 12 years old, clutching a small tablet. Eyes wide with admiration, Ava smiled. She saw herself in that girl, the same spark, the same hunger to understand the world, and in that moment, she knew the cycle had come full circle. One generation's disbelief had become another's inspiration. As the lights dimmed and the applause echoed, Ava whispered to herself, a quiet promise to the world, and to the man who had once mocked her: "Fix this, and I'll give you everything you never believed you could have." And she did. Not with arrogance, not with revenge, but with light. Because the janitor's daughter had rewritten not just a line of code, but the story of what brilliance really means.